Hi everybody, Secular Traditionalist here. I'm going to make a video called Victimhood, Intersectionality, and David Shackleton. I hope I said the name right. So, as I said before, I'm fascinated by intersectionality. I particularly am drawn to this kind of stuff. I find it very interesting. And then victimhood, right? Now, David Shackleton, he's from Canada. He works with an association called CAFE. It's Canadian Association for Equality. So he's doing a lot of gender things, and he wrote a book called The Hand That Rocks the World. It's a very good book, and it's cheap. It's like €4 to buy it on Kindle. I mean, for US or something like this on Kindle, it's not expensive. If you want to read it. Now, it is I think most people will read it as, to give a book review, it is like a anti-feminist book, I suppose, or it's, if you take it in a literal sense, it is trying to show you his belief that, that the world is a bit unfair to men, and that men have a good way to go in terms of finding equality, you know? So he presents probably some statistics and things like that to prove that. Now, but to me, the most interesting part of this book is not really anything men's rights or anti-feminist. It is just the way he sort of tries to guide the reader along a journey by trying to explain to the reader what human mental flaws we may have, and how to navigate through your own psychological makeup or your own flaws. And one of the things he spoke about is victimhood. I'm not exactly sure, because I can't remember everything that was in this book and if it came from this book or somewhere, but I think this is one of the things that he spoke about is victimhood, right? And I'm not exactly sure what he said here, but in order he said something about like this. So to do sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. So, but victimhood is something that humans, like, we all have, and if you look it up on Wikipedia, there's something called the self-serving bias, which is basically what David Shackleton is talking about. We all have a bias, and it's also what I said in the video that I made saying that we are all hypocrites, right? We all basically have biases. But he explains that the bias that we have is about trying to see ourselves as good, trying to see ourselves as more good than we really are. So on Wikipedia, this is called self-serving bias. Basically, we are programmed to try and paint a picture of reality in which we are the good people and in which we are good. Now, one of the easiest ways to make ourselves always good is to be a victim. Because if you are a victim, even though you behave bad, even if a victim behaves bad, if a victim kills somebody, if a victim does something wrong, the victim is still the victim. So it is actually, victimhood is like a powerful sort of elixir for humans. If we could paint the world around us such that we are victims, we are always good, and all humans want to see themselves as good. So this is very important when you look at things, because you're supposed to think about it and see mentally you are trying to paint the world around you in such a way that you are a victim. And you have to think about ways to overcome that self-serving bias so that you could get to reality. Now, in reality, you might be a victim, you know, but if you are aware of the fact that you as a human are naturally seeking victimhood, then maybe you could make better, you could see the world a little bit clearer and overcome your biases to see just how much of a victim you really are or not. Now, I want to also relate this to intersectionality, and why this is very interesting when you relate it to intersectionality, because when you break things down into all the different points, like you break it down into woman, man, black, white, heterosexual, homosexual, rich, poor, and every single form of intersectionality that you can for each human, I think what happens is that you end up with, you have a lot of different ideologies. I'm sorry that I don't have the time to make this video properly. Yeah, so you end up with a lot of different ideologies. And ideologies like, for example, feminism, black nationalism, white nationalism, the minimalism, even if you take things like minimalism, veganism, environmentalism, all these different things, right? They are ideologies which paint the people who subscribe to them as good. And because the victim status is so attractive to humans because it makes us always good. A lot of these ideologies, like feminism, for example, try to use the victim status because it's something that is extremely attractive. But in order to create the victim status, you have to have an abuser. You have to create an abuser. And so feminists use men as the abuser. Like, for example, men go in their own way, not necessarily men go in their own way, but the red pill, these people, they use woman as the abuser. And you have all these different ideologies where you create a reality where the people who subscribe to it can be seen as victims, and where there is an abuser who is basically the scapegoat. And intersectionality is very, very interesting in this respect to me, because what's happening is that you have, like, for example, me and you can break down, I can break myself down into several different intersectionalities, and some of them I will be the victim here, and some of them I'll be the victim there. But what ends up happening is that I'm going to subscribe to the one where I am most the victim. So I'm going to have to sacrifice some parts of myself. Let's say, like, it's the most important thing to me, one of the very important things to me that I use to identify myself may be that I'm a mom, and that I am, and that's what happened to me basically with traditionalism, and why I would identify as a traditionalist and seek ideologies which paint the traditionalist as good and as the scapegoat, let's say single mom, as bad, is because what happened is that an important part of my ideology was, at least in the time when I entered these sort of things, was being a mom. So because this is important to me, then I hold on to this, and I hope you see what I'm going. I will make more videos on this. I can't make it now because there's so much noise. I'm sorry for the noise, and I hope this video makes sense. But it's just an interesting idea, and yeah, I would recommend the book by David Shackleton, although it doesn't really explore this in depth. It just speaks a little. It speaks about this a bit, but. And I think there's so much more that could be said on this, especially in terms of intersectionality and victimhood, and why we choose victimhood, and how there's always an abuser and stuff. Okay, I have to go. Bye.